Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Friday edition of Jack and Keith's Weekend Playbook. Lots to chat about today, of course. If you're a Knicks fan or you're an NBA fan, lots to go over. Also, other stuff in the world of sports. And I welcome in my co-host, Boxing Hall of Fame writer, Michael Spink's biographer, Jack Hirsch. How are you this morning, Jack?
Hey, excellent, Keith. There is so much going on that when we were talking a little before the show about what we might cover, a couple other things just popped into my head that are very newsworthy. And if I have a chance, I'll slip them in there.
Wow, I worry about when I'm going to
I
get...
didn't mention it before the show. I didn't think of it because you're normally with all your jokes and this and that.
When Jack,
you kind of filled up some valuable time where we could have been planning a little better. But the Knicks Spurs game is newsworthy enough. The upcoming game, the games that were played, the series, that'll bail us out. Or that'll bail you out at least.
I think everybody's excited, Jack. Anytime you have stuff that comes out of left field, everybody's excited and on the edge of their seat. So I think it's fine. We'll be all good. In any event, the Knicks, after really really blowing a game Monday night, not playing well, and getting behind by 29 points early in the third quarter, it certainly looked dire, even for I usually keep a positive attitude in these cases. They almost sent me to bed, and I didn't go, and I'm glad I didn't because I would have missed the most historic comeback in the history of the NBA Finals and maybe the entire NBA. Maybe sports. Where's this ranking to come back in sports history?
I don't know what you were thinking at that moment when things looked beyond glum. But I was actually looking ahead, but not in a positive way. Originally, I picked the Spurs to win in 7 games, but before the series, I sent you the email. I thought it over, really analyzed it extra carefully, and picked the Knicks in 6. But the Knicks were down to a certain defeat in Game 4. And It was a bad defeat. It even made Game 3 look good when they only lost by 4 points. I wondered, is that the best they could play going forward, is the way they lost Game 3?
Right.
So I visualized best case scenario. Knicks go to San Antonio for Game 5. They lose that game, but they win Game 6 at the Garden and then lose Game 7 at San Antonio. The series got away, and it was depressing, Keith. Absolutely depressing. But I'm going to tell you one thing about basketball. People don't mention it at all. It's all about knocking down shots. When you make shots, the perception is, oh, what good ball movement. They worked for the open man. They this, they that. And when you miss shots, I don't care how good the ball movement was. I don't care how good the offensive scheme was. People are going to point out things that went wrong. And even at the end of the game, I mean, now, if you're San Antonio or someone who's looking for reasons San Antonio lost, they're looking for GOAT, looking at a villain outside of the coach. Now they point to DeAndre Fox, trying to get a layup there. 12 seconds up. Nothing wrong with what he did. He was going to get fouled anyway.
Yeah, well, you take the foul and run the clock as much as you can.
You take the foul, and if you miss one shot, the Knicks were going to have enough time to set up for the last shot the way they did. Same exact thing.
You're not going to get me to squeeze that away. I'm not going to squeeze that away.
You're probably going to get fouled if you don't make the shot. And Anunoby made a sensational defensive play, and people are going to remember his legendary tip-in. They're not going to remember one of the great defensive plays in maybe NBA Finals history that he made.
Real fans will, and guys like me who are promoting OG all through this playoff run, by the way. And when I was asked about who would be the X factor for the Knicks, I said OG. And I'll remember that block as much as the tip-in. And by the way, even on a tip-in, that is to go to the hoop there. He's looking for the ball. Then he goes to the hoop. Just great presence of mind to know what was going on and go find a lane. But as far as Fox goes, look, it's a stupid play, but it really shouldn't come to that. He can't be the villain. He can't be the GOAT. because they blow a 29-point lead. They come down and take 8 straight 3-pointers, Jack. They weren't moving the ball at all. They just come down, throw up a 3-pointer, not cognizant of the game situation, the clock, nothing. That it was bad approach, bad coaching, and it's a young team. This is what we talked about. We've seen it several times in this, well, almost every game, where the Spurs have gotten control of these games and not been able to hold it. And I think that is a direct result of how young and inexperienced they are and this coach is, because Mitch Johnson has had his problems in this series, and Mike Brown's outcoached him.
Well, Mitch Johnson made adjustments in Game 3. Keep that in mind, where they get the ball in Wemby in the low post. You know, there's certain things that I do question, and it's easy to question it after the fact because you don't know how. I didn't know how San Antonio was going to set up their defense on the last possession, and Wemby came up to guard Jalen Brunson. I understand that. Brunson was specifically Wemby's man. That was the feeling. Brunson was going to get the last shot, and by bringing Wemby out, Brunson released the ball a little sooner than he maybe would have liked, but he kind of had to do it. You know, he couldn't afford another dribble with Wemby there risking a block shot. But you could have put Stephen Castle right on Jalen Brunson, right on his heels to smother him. It would have made it very hard for Jalen Brunson to get off a shot, or Jalen Brunson was then going to have to drive towards the basket, and you would have had Wemby back there. So I kind of question, you know, their defensive scheme afterwards, even though I understand the logic behind it. But bottom line is San Antonio couldn't make a shot, you know. Towards the end of the game, they just couldn't make a basket. And what people are mentioning, Ivor, it's not like during the Knick comeback, they were making shot after shot. I mean, it wouldn't only be like the missed layup by Josh Hart when he should have dunked the ball at the end that could have been, you know, devastating. But there were a number of other possessions where the Knicks failed to capitalize. A number of other possessions.
Yeah, as stirring as this rally was, there was a lot of deflating moments, right? That Josh Hart miss was just like, oh my God, that could be the game right there. And he got up there and he didn't know whether to dunk it. I think he just didn't get enough elevation. He couldn't dunk it and then tried to lay it up.
And I'm concerned about Mitch Robinson in this sense. Coming into the playoffs, we talked about his fractured pinky. Has that played a role in anything at all? I don't know. Maybe it has, and we don't know. But he's been on the court. But what bothers me, he's gassed.
Yeah,
he's gassed.
Yeah.
I mean, he's tired out there. I mean, why is he chugging along the amount of minutes he played? He's looking like a preseason game, and he's working his way into shape. And with Karl Anthony Towns the last game, I know the second foul on him was highly questionable. I don't think it should have been called. But the first foul he committed virtually seconds into the game, what a dumb foul to stick his body out with a little bump. Like he kind of became cute, Karl Anthony Towns, on defense, and he picked up a quick foul. Karl Anthony Towns just can't afford that.
So, I agree. That's a stupid foul in this situation, but he doesn't know he's going to get 2 in a minute, because that one they reviewed. They looked at that several times in slow motion, and how do you call that hooking on Towns when Wemby's sticking his arm in there? What's supposed to happen?
You mean to tell me Wemby couldn't get his hand out of that?
Baloney. His hand should be in there in the first place.
He couldn't get his hand out of it. Come on. Get out of here. He left his hand in there. I mean, Wemby's smart the way he plays the officials. I do give him a lot of credit for that.
Well,
yeah.
He's playing the officials. He's playing the crowd. He's playing everybody. And Wemby's starting to get himself, and we talked about it a little bit before, and we've talked about other places leading up to this, that he's getting a reputation, building a reputation that I don't know that he really is going to relish here in another year or so, because he's very chippy. He does these little antics, like, again, pointing to Mitchell Robinson, or when Robinson got a foul charge on him, and Wemby, probably took a flop. and pointing to his head. I'm saying, I'm in your head. I'm in your head. That's playground stuff, man.
Well, Wemby doesn't understand, and it's too late now. And he should have been made to understand this. All great players have to be made to understand this. Once you do something outwardly and you taunt in any way, shape, or form your opponent, you're also taunting their fan base. You're also taunting the crowd. And he invited the crowd to get into it with him. And there's a carryover effect. A carryover effect. I mean, the Spurs know they have to come back to New York now for Game 6, no matter what, if they win Game 5. And even though I expect the Spurs to show up and play well in Game 5, they're going to be at home. Something in the back of their minds has to be bothering them. Oh, man, we have to go back to New York, even though just one more time. Oh, I don't want to go back there, to put up with all this external and all this hostility, and all. And it's going to be interesting. Wemby, I think, before this series is over, is going to have one controversial moment, whether it's a flagrant foul again. Some way, somehow, because I think he's a young guy. Maybe the Knicks will provoke him for all I know. Alvarado was trying to provoke him. Alvarado, a little guy, was standing up to the Knicks trying to bump him. Should that have been a flagrant on Alvarado? The flagrant foul rules, I don't know them. You don't know them. Because
they're subjective.
No. They're so defined for the officials in a certain way. Alvarado's going for Wemby's leg, grabbing it. That to me is flagrant, but according to the rule book, it's not. I think Castle ran into Brunson and knocked him down. He ran right into him. I thought that should have been a flagrant early in the series. It wasn't considered a flagrant foul.
How's Wemby not get a flagrant Monday night against Brunson? How's that not a flagrant? You put his hand on his head and his face and push him to the ground.
But that's what I think might be a give back. Any borderline call concerning Wemby coming forward like that, the officials might think, oh boy, this is like a makeup call. You hear about makeup calls in sports? We might get a makeup flagrant call if Wemby does something like that.
I don't want that to happen. As a Knicks fan, I don't want Wemby suspended for a game and people tell me we win the series because Wemby's out for Game 6 or whatever.
No, but the Knicks are up. The Knicks are up with Wemby there. It wouldn't matter. Look, the Knicks last year, they beat the Celtics in the playoff. Jason Tatum got hurt. But the Knicks were ahead in the series when Tatum got hurt. You gotta consider that factor, as well.
Right. No, I get it. I just don't want to see that. I always want to beat teams at their best. I don't want guys suspended or hurt. And
you think for 1 second, if Brunson or Anunoby, and Anunoby's stock has went up so much in that one legendary game that I can now include him in the conversation. If one of them hypothetically couldn't play the rest of the series and the Spurs came back and won it, no one in San Antonio, including the team, is going to think it was tainted the championship in their favor if something like that happened.
No.
So the Knicks fans shouldn't think that way as far as Wemby goes.
I'm not going to think that. Knicks fans aren't going to think that. The haters will think that. Well,
the haters are always going to think of something. And I don't know what haters as well. I'm going to say this. Knicks under a lot more pressure than San Antonio. In looking at the San Antonio Spurs, they're next season's NBA champions. Next season, they're winning the NBA championship. No one is stopping them. They're better than OKC. They're better than OKC now, at least the equal of OKC right now. The Spurs and OKC, they're neck and neck right now if you want, because OKC did have, in fairness to them, they did have injuries during the season. But I don't think the Spurs win over OKC, because when they were healthy OKC during the season, the Spurs clearly got the better of them.
I never look at, again, injuries aren't an excuse for losing, right? They're a reason. You have to overcome them. Everybody has injuries. Everybody's got to overcome them. Knicks aren't complete. You know, Brunson's always banged up the way he plays, for crying out loud. So, you know, look, these are two really good basketball teams. And by the way, I have to remind you, I'm just going to do this out of a courtesy for you. These shows live on forever. So your pronouncements about the Spurs, you know, winning the next 20 NBA championships are saved forever.
No, I'm saying it now. The Spurs have not just Wemby. Dylan Harper could potentially be one of the best players in the NBA going forward. I mean, he could potentially. I'll give you an example. I'll give you an example right now. If I'm the Dallas Mavs and I get a phone call, not Dallas Mavs, I mean San Antonio Spurs, and I get a phone call, we'd like to offer you a one-on-one swap, Anthony Edwards for Dylan Harper. Now, I'm not saying I wouldn't make it. I don't know. I'd have to think of, but the idea, Keith, I would have to think about it, seriously think about it, and I'm not sure whether I would make the deal. As great as Anthony Edwards is, I could project Dylan Harper to be as good or better going forward, and he's younger.
I think I'm with you in this case. I don't think I would trade him. I do think this team needs to bring in.
That tells you a lot about how good the Spurs are going to be.
I don't disagree. I'm not disagreeing they'll be great. They're going to be a great team for the next, you know, foreseeable future. I think they need to bring in a better veteran presence than, say, De'Aaron Fox. I mean, he's a nice player, but I don't think he's the type of guy that can stop what went on Wednesday night. They need somebody to be able to kind of, you know, bring this team back down to earth sometimes, because I think I don't know if they get full of themselves or what, but they don't have that grounding presence in my mind on that team. They need somebody that can do that and ground them when they have these moments.
I think they needed a veteran presence, and the veteran presence didn't have to be one of the better players on the court necessarily to calm things down.
No, it doesn't need to be.
They didn't really have the veteran leadership. And, you know, there's another little bit of an X factor, too. I may have mentioned it on the last show. San Antonio's main assistant coach, he's going to be the next coach.
Right.
Yeah. What's his last name again? I have his brain now. He's going to be the Orlando Magic coach. About 3 weeks ago, as decided, but he was staying with the Spurs for the duration of the playoffs. Kudos to him for doing that.
Sean Sweeney.
Same time, Sweeney, right?
Sean Sweeney, yeah.
Sweeney, but Sweeney, when he gets back to his room, he's out of a meeting, while the other coaches are thinking of ways to counter the Knicks, what to do. I'm not saying he's not thinking of them. He's also planning for the Orlando Magic during this time. You'd be naive to think he wasn't. And his time is split up now between the Magic and the Spurs. I blame the NBA because interviews and hiring shouldn't be allowed to take place until all the playoffs were complete, till the finals were done. Then they can start interviewing people and offering them the job.
Every sport needs to do that. Every sport needs to, you know, and they talk about, you know, because of free agencies and drafts and whatever it might be, we'll push all that stuff back then. Push it all back if you have to.
Can you imagine if you're the Orlando Magic and if the Spurs suffer another coaching breakdown in the next game and they lose? Are the Magic going to think that we really hired the right guy? We had Billy Donovan out there, you know, to hire Jeff Van Gundy, you know.
Well, here's the thing. If the Spurs
Jeff Van Gundy might go to Portland, by the way. That's a possibility.
Jeff Van Gundy. I love Jeff Van Gundy, but I don't know that he's going to be able to coach today's player.
All the guys, you kind of wonder how committed they are.
Yeah.
It is a grind.
I think his time has passed. But listen, the Spurs themselves, Mitch Johnson's a very young coach, and it's shown in this series. Some of his inexperience, I think. if the Spurs go out there and blow another double-digit lead, say Game 5, because they will have been in control of every game in this series at one point or another. You could argue, right? Is he in trouble? Is he potentially going to lose his job?
I'll tell you why I don't think so, because I think the players like him. I don't think he's lost the team. And that's an important thing. If the players are disgruntled and they start complaining on San Antonio, it's internal, then his job absolutely could be in trouble, and then maybe they go for veteran presence. Right now, I think what's going to happen if San Antonio loses the series, they're going to say, you want to know something? We got to our next step maybe a year earlier than we should have. The goal this season was if we just made the playoffs, it was going to be a step forward, and then next season we could contend. So by them contending this year, they might rationalize it away that way. And keep in mind this too, Keith. 2 of the Knicks losses, San Antonio had the last possession of the game. Had they made the shot, one possession, you make the shot on each possession, you're up 3-1, and now you know what the narrative would have been? They're going back to San Antonio where they're going to probably wrap the series up. That would be the narrative.
Yeah. No, I kind of agree with you. I think the saving grace for Mitch Johnson will be the fact that they're so far ahead of schedule that he's going to get a pass on some of these faux pas. Maybe.
Does Wemby like him? Is he? And it seems as if Wemby would advocate for him as well, because you can tell when Wemby comes back to the huddle, he has his arm around his coach and all, and it seems like the relationships are good. He's been questioned on DeAndre Fox. Why don't you start Dylan Harper ahead of him? But you want to know something? If you look at the minutes of both guys, the minutes are similar, and that's the main thing that counts at the end. It doesn't matter who starts. It matters how much minutes they have on the court and how involved they are, in the offense.
Now, you mentioned Jeff Van Gundy a minute ago being up for potentially the Trailblazer job. If he doesn't get that job, a guy like Jeff Van Gundy would be invaluable on the Spurs bench, let's say, or a guy like Jeff Van Gundy, a guy who's been through all the wars. And can counsel Mitch Johnson as he continues to grow as an NBA coach. I think that's the direction they ought to go. Keep him, bring in a veteran guy, maybe like Van Gundy, to kind of help him through these waters.
Well, Mitch Johnson got the job because Coach Pop had issues and couldn't coach anymore.
Right.
So, and I have the feeling, I don't know for sure, that Coach Pop's decision who was going to, replace him. That's the feeling I got, which is another issue as well. Should a legacy coach get to decide his successor or not? Great question. You saw it like in college, Coach K at Duke. He got to decide who his successor was going to be. And should it come from the AD in college? Should it come from ownership completely? How much should they defer to a legacy coach who's leaving the position to pick their next, replacement? Yeah,
and Rick was talking about, I don't know, he's calling you one of the 37%. I'm not sure what that's about, but congratulations.
As far as being a Knicks fan, I mean, that's fair. I mean, I'm a Brooklyn Nets fan who always rooted for the Knicks as well. I always wanted to do well. I never rooted against the Knicks at any point. I mean, there was never rivalry in New York, ever, with the Nets and the Knicks. I mean, they play one another. It would be a fun game. We'd take notice, the Nets and the Knicks, because we could see them both at the same time instead of in 2 separate games.
Yeah.
But at no point did the Nets and the Knicks in their history ever have a true rivalry, because there was never a point where they were both championship contenders. This isn't the case, the Knicks and the Nets, like the Spurs and OKC or whatever.
Well, because the Nets are never good enough. That's why. So
they had a couple of years when they had Jason Kidd.
Yeah, but the Knicks weren't any good then, right?
Back finals.
I don't think the Nets and Knicks, I feel like they've never been, again, they've probably been okay at the same time, but never been really good at the same time.
That's what I said. That's why if there was ever a situation where the Nets and the Knicks would have both been championship contenders, maybe my feelings would have been different. I would have been forced to side with the Nets completely, and the Knicks would have then become a little bit of the villain to me. It's possible, but that's never been the situation. And my Net fandom goes back to the ABA, because I was around when the Nets first started. Okay, when the Nets first started, so it was easy to adopt them as my team from the beginning.
I think my feelings for the Nets are probably the same as yours for the Knicks. I don't have any. Well, you probably have some feeling for the Knicks. I don't have any for the Nets one way or the other, just because they've never been good enough.
They're not good. My Net membership is my Net fandom is being frozen right now, like a gym membership. You're freezing it. That's your way, so you don't want to pay.
Very wishy-washy.
But I'm going to say this too. If you're from New York during the season, and this has been the case with me, and you want to go to a game, you can afford Brooklyn Net games to go see the Nets play. You can't afford the Knicks. And it's always been that way. Years ago, when the Nets played in New Jersey at the Prudential Center, in Newark, the Cleveland Cavaliers with LeBron James were in town. I went with my buddies and we went to the Net Cavalier game there, but we wouldn't go to a Net Cavalier game at Madison Square Garden because the prices were off the charts.
Just go to the
Miami Heat game with LeBron, I forgot. But in any event, I did a comparison what tickets would cost for each game. I thought, this is crazy what it costs to see LeBron play at MSG, but at the Prudential Center, it's actually affordable.
Well, go with the mayor. You'll be able to go for free and, get prime seats. That's what he does. So you're all good. Speaking of the mayor, I know we talked about this before. The city of New York, they get a bad, listen, I'm upstate, so I'm not from New York, and I go out of my way, quite frankly. No knock to New Yorkers, really. But I want to make sure they know I live upstate and not in the city, because that's what they assume when you say you're from New York. But we get a bad name because of a few thugs. That's not a few, as you mentioned earlier. It's a lot of thugs, but most of them are probably going to the games. I don't consider them real fans. And I think the rest of us are colored in a bad light because of these guys who are, running wild on the street, throwing things at Wemby, beating up Spurs fans, starting cars on who God knows what's going to happen when they win. And they should throw the book at these guys to deter people from doing it in the future.
There you go again, Keith Engle, being an apologist once again.
Apologize for
and distorting the narrative. I've heard that line.
Which one?
Over and over and over. You're not the first one to use it. You're just being a copycat. It's only a few who give it bad name. It's more than a few, Keith. It's many who do that.
Percentage of the overall fan base.
And you're I know you're a Law and Order guy. Okay, I'm going to give you that.
So.
I'll give you that much, so you don't have to debate me on that. But we have an elected official here, the mayor of New York, who flubs things off and says, oh, well, it's a very passionate crowd, a very exuberant crowd. I'm paraphrasing. He's going to say things like that. Okay? It's more than a few. I want the city.
Hold on. Let me interject real quickly, because I want to make sure that I'm not colored in the same light as Mayor Mandami, please. So, because you could give me all the $100 million you have in the bank, Jack, and you couldn't make me vote for a guy like Mandami ever.
Well, I'm not getting the political thing. I'm just saying.
No. Do not color me in the same light as Mandami, because when I say a few, I'm not dismissing it the way he is. I'm saying this is a huge problem. He's saying it's not. So let's make sure we're on the same page here.
And it's going to get worse, Keith. It is going to get worse one way or the other, a lot worse. And I'm scared some really bad things might go down, because one or two things is going to happen before the series is over, Keith. Either the Knicks blow a 3-1 lead. That means after Game 7, there's going to be real terror in the streets. vandalism, other things, or the Knicks are going to win the championship, and it's going to be an excuse to celebrate, do this, do that. Jumping on top of taxi cabs, smashing the window. I mean, a Spur fan walks out in a San Antonio Spur uniform, could get attacked, and I'm going to excuse that in any way, shape, or form.
I'm not excusing it.
I don't want to hear the mayor say, "Oh, it's wrong. No one should get attacked." Obviously, it's wrong, you fool. I mean, obviously, it's wrong.
I want to be clear.
I'm not calling you the fool. I'm calling.
No, I know that. I know that. I want to be clear. When I say a few, I'm only talking about the overall percentage of New Yorkers who are Knicks fans throughout the entire state, not just New York City, everywhere. So, but at the same time, anybody who does this, I don't care if it's 1% of the people or 75% of the people that are doing this, they all need to be prosecuted to the full extent of the law to deter people from doing this going forward. Because it's going to be ugly there if they win, whether they win in San Antonio or whether they win.
Not only that, the city of New York, starting with the mayor, has to announce, we're not going to put up with that. San Antonio Spurs fans, they come to New York, they're to be treated with respect. They're to be left alone. They're not to be harassed in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
To make that clear, they're allowed to root for their team just like we as New Yorkers, when our fans go on the road, should be allowed to root for the Knicks without any type of harassment.
Absolutely. It should be safe for you as a semi-Knick fan, a quasi-Knick fan, to go out and celebrate the victory on the streets if you wanted to safely. Right?
No, but there's any.
Would you go out in the streets? Would you go on the streets and celebrate this? I I know you're not want to do that.
San Antonio Spurs fan.
No, I would. As a Knicks fan, would you feel safe going out and celebrating this victory in the streets when it happens? I wouldn't.
I would be sure to wear a Knicks jacket, a Knicks cap.
I'd still be concerned.
I would be concerned. I would be concerned to a point, but. If you have your Knicks gear on, you're thought of as being one of them. They're not going to mug you as a Knicks fan. Knicks fans are going to mug other Knicks fans.
I don't know. They'll burn.
No. What they're going to do.
Whose cars are they going to overturn?
They're going to cause damage to institutions. They might smash store windows, run in, take stuff. That's the idea of celebrating. But Keith, bottom line is this: the majority of people. The majority of these people at the watch parties, how many Knicks games do you think they've watched this year?
Probably
2-3 games.
Probably the final.
If that's about it. It's a happening. It's a place to be. That's why we're seeing the young people out there. It's a place to party. The weather's nice. You're out in this big gathering. It's a happening. It's an event. They're having fun. Celebrating. It's a
I'm not getting.
And you can do it when you're poor. You don't have to spend any money to do it. It's not costing anything.
Not costing me anything to sit in my recliner, safe and sound as well. So I know I'm safe there. Nobody's gonna mug me there.
Because you're into the game and this and that. Look, it's same thing, but in a different scenario. You have these Super Bowl parties. Anyone who's going to go to a Super Bowl party,
that's why
isn't a fan. They're not a fan.
No.
They're just to go there to eat, to talk. They see some plays on the TV, then they turn away, then they're talking. It's first down. They see the first down play. Then the next time they're looking at the screen, the other team's punting on fourth down, and they're discussing it like into the game. I mean, come on.
I've gone to some Super Bowl parties, and it's a great place to go if you don't want to watch a game, for sure.
You don't want to watch the game. I did it one year, and I'm kind of glad I experienced it over my sister's house. It was the complete waste.
It's probably been 30 years since I've done it.
Of my time. I'm telling you that, too. I went into another room to watch the game. Some people followed me. Someone asked me what a punt was. I kid you not. What is a punt? They were listening to the commentator. And I told them, look, if this was a regular season game, I would explain it to you. But this is the Super Bowl. And, I was a little snippy. I'm in normal. Come on.
listen, to give that person a little bit of credit, they do to seek out a Jet fan to find out what a punt was. So at least give them credit for that.
The game I actually went to, ironically, was the one year that the only Super Bowl Aaron Rodgers won when the Packers beat the Steelers that year. That was the Super Bowl game.
Well, that's a good one to miss, I guess. So. What can you do?
I don't even let my wife watch it with me. She said a couple of years. She said, "Oh, you want me to watch the game with you?" And I went, "No, because you haven't watched one regular season game with me. If you watch a regular season game, you can watch the Super Bowl. But no, I want to watch it in private. I don't want any friends over. I wouldn't even want you. You, I might be able to tolerate if you're my next door neighbor, because at least you would watch the game.
I'll bring beer.
Watch the game.
I'll bring beer too, so I'm a good guy to invite. Before we leave basketball, hang on one second, Danny. Danny wants to say good morning. We weren't. Our feed wasn't going through to my personal page, so we might be missing a few people this morning. Good morning, Danny. Good to have you with us out there in LA. Before we leave basketball, LeBron was quoted this week as saying, when they were talking about GOATs and whatnot, he said he would never pick anybody over himself as the GOAT in NBA basketball. Now, this is obviously a subjective question, right? Everybody's got a different opinion. I guarantee you, whatever he set aside, Michael Jordan thinks he's the GOAT. I know he said he often defers. I know he thinks he's the GOAT. We have a problem. I'd have a problem if somebody doesn't think they're the GOAT if they were one of the best players of all time. I don't have a problem with LeBron tooting his own horn.
Not at all. Because every player should have a goal to be the best ever. And I'm going to tell you, you might disagree. Being a Patriot fan there, when the Patriots got upset and by the Giants, the last game of the year, the unbeaten season went down. At that point, I think Tom Brady had 3 Super Bowls under his belt, if I'm not mistaken. Yep. Peyton Manning had 1. Now, Peyton Manning was thrilled. Now, Peyton Manning likes Tom Brady. He's his friend. Don't get me wrong. He likes him. They genuinely like one another.
Right.
Peyton Manning is like LeBron. His goal was to be the greatest ever. That meant a lot to him. But he couldn't let Brady get too far ahead of him as far as Super Bowls went. As it turned out, Brady wound up blowing everyone out of the water. So Manning can never be put ahead of Brady now, logically, in most people's all-time lists. But Eli wins that game, okay? He is thrilled, not just for Eli, which Peyton was, very happy for Eli winning a Super Bowl, but because Peyton's also thinking to himself, Brady's still close to me. If I could get just even one Super Bowl closer to Brady, I'm in the race for the best ever, per se. And that's how it is. And LeBron said it years ago, talking to one of the kids being interviewed, a high school kid, saying he still has that elephant in the room that he has to catch public perception. LeBron has always been about being the best, controlling the narrative, being the best. And Jordan has always kind of been in his way.
Listen, I agree, I think, with all of that. And LeBron has a right to think he's the best because he's put up the numbers and, and
he's had the best career. Say what you want, who's the best at peak value, but LeBron has had the best career. I don't want to hear because Bill Russell's 11 titles. I mean, that you could factor in as well, but Bill Russell wasn't as good a player, as great a player as LeBron James. I've seen them both play. Bill Russell, you could argue, from one end of the court, was the greatest defensive player of all time. You can make that argument.
I've never heard him described as the best player of all time. I've heard him described as the biggest winner of all time, which is accurate.
Listen, Phil Jackson was once interviewed, and this has slipped under the radar, that many years ago, I think he rated Jordan the second best player ever, that Bill Russell was the best. They asked Phil Jackson years and years ago, who's the greatest player you ever saw? And he said Bill Russell, because Bill Russell was his contemporary.
Yeah.
That's the thing about it.
That makes sense.
But then Red Auerbach. They asked him who you would take, Jordan or Russell. Would you take Russell over Jordan? And he said, I'm not so sure. He said, you got to consider the economics of basketball as well. Red Auerbach, if he had a choice, Russell or Jordan, he would have taken Jordan, as much as he loved Bill Russell.
Fair. And longevity does play into it. I mean,
longevity does, and then it's peak value. Jordan said it best, you can't really determine who's the best. In the eras you play in do fit into things. They do fit in.
For sure. I mean, to me, when I'm comparing players, it's eras. If you can play in that time and your time, I think you're a great player. And LeBron could play then; he could play anytime. Jordan could play anytime. How would Russell do today?
The modern guys can play in past eras. I hate this nonsense when they say about the modern great players, oh, they could have fit into any era. You got it backwards. Could the guys from past eras have fit into this one? And
not all of them. Not all of them.
Athletes are clearly better.
Some guys,
clearly better.
But some guys could still play today. Jerry West could play today, right?
Yeah, but I don't want to hear Bob Cousy, who's still alive, saying, well, I think Jalen Brunson would have been outstanding in my era as well. I don't want to hear that. Look, I can tell you that Oscar Robertson, I'm not saying he wasn't, but it's close. I could tell you Oscar Robertson was better than Magic Johnson. I could argue he's better than Magic. Magic was great, but Oscar was a little better. But people, the modern eras today, Oscar slips under the radar. They just don't think of him quite the same way.
I think they discount it because the competition is better today. That the athletes you're playing against today are better than what Oscar played against. You didn't have the travel. You didn't have all this other stuff. So I think that's what happens. I think Oscar could play today without a doubt.
There's a story that we didn't discuss. We were talking about the Knicks fans before. I want to make a quick detour.
Yep.
Since you and I are in a typical grouchy mood complaining about stuff, Henry Ruggs was in the news. His parole was denied. It's a tragic story that happened years ago. Henry Ruggs killed someone. He was impaired, supposedly, but he was riding his vehicle 156 miles an hour. I didn't even know cars you could get up to that speed. Tragic. But listen, I feel bad for Henry Ruggs too. Don't get me wrong.
His life was ruined through his own choices.
I feel bad for anyone who screwed up their life. But I don't want to hear in defense of Henry Ruggs, well, let him out on parole so he could be a role model by speaking against the evils of this or that. I don't want Henry Ruggs. I don't want to hear from Henry Ruggs about the evils of, being impaired and this and that. I mean, I feel for Henry Ruggs too. I really do. And I'm not saying I was happy his parole was denied. I'm not saying that. You would hope at some point he gets his life in order. And I don't know how much remorse he has. I can't question that. But of course, he's going to say all the right things. He's now a deeply religious man. How terrible he feels for the family. They're in his prayers, the victim, the this, the that. Because that's what you say when you want to get released on parole.
100%.
That's what you say, okay? How many actually, feel that? Okay, I don't know. But 156 miles an hour, and it bothers me on this account too, like it does you, Keith. We've been on the road driving our cars, and we've seen enough of these maniacs come zipping by. Every single one is a threat. And if our officials are to do anything, I would love a serious crackdown on these speeders where, you get caught speeding twice. You lose your license for a year, let's say. And then if you're riding a vehicle while you're under suspension of the license, then now you're going to jail for a year and you're losing your license for 10 years on top of it, or something along those lines.
I don't disagree. And if I had done committed the crime that Henry Rugg did, I don't know that I'd even be up for parole in 5 years, quite frankly. I'm not sure that I would be, or you would be.
So now Henry Rugg is still young enough to salvage his NFL career. But if I'm law enforcement, I totally disregard that fact completely. It's not about him, it's really about the victim. Look, there was a case many years ago. He's no longer alive. There was this boxer, Tony Ayala, who he raped women. He was given a 15-year sentence for rape, and then after all the time, he was already an old guy, but he was something like 37 years old, and he wanted to return to the ring. And there was a big movement to return him to the ring. And the parole officer didn't let him out. I mean, the judgment was he's still a threat to society, even though he's been in jail. And that official came under a lot of abuse for not allowing him out, because it was supposed to be a story of redemption for Tony Ayala. But guess what? Tony Ayala was eventually allowed out, not at that time, and got in trouble again.
Well, he should have had Deshaun Watson's lawyer. He would have been out, never gone to jail.
No. Deshaun Watson did nothing along those lines. Deshaun Watson, to
60
me...
women said otherwise, Jack.
Listen. Deshaun Watson, the problem with Deshaun Watson, he exposed himself extremely distasteful. Extremely. It's not like Deshaun Watson forced women to do things against their will.
That's not what 60 women said. That's not what 60 women said.
What he did was indecent exposure, and he's paid. And Deshaun Watson is paid. He's paid a real penalty for, reputational damage.
Don't remember being in prison. I don't remember being in prison. I missed that story, I guess, but I'm getting sidetracked now. Deshaun Watson's never going to be redeemed in my eyes, ever.
Well, that's fine. No, I'm not saying he should to you, but it's not like he committed a criminal act in the sense that he should be in jail. He was never charged on a criminal act.
He wasn't charged. Doesn't mean he didn't do it. That's two different.
No, they had enough. He would have been charged had he, believe me. But
I'm not buying it. Not buying it.
Okay, whatever.
60 women don't conspire.
No. Deshaun Watson was wrong, and he absolutely.
Just don't let's get out of football.
But getting off that, Keith, the World Cup beginning.
World Cup started yesterday. South Korea with a win. What they win? 2-0 yesterday. Is that right? I had it up.
South Korea won. Yeah, they came from behind.
They come from behind to beat. 2-1.
They won 2-1. Mexico won 2-0.
Oh, South Korea wins.
The game was in Mexico. Mexico normally contends for the World Cup title.
Yep. USA will play tonight against Paraguay out in SoFi Stadium in LA. Maybe Danny will be there. I don't know.
They're contenders and pretenders. The USA is one of the teams that's thought to have a shot at maybe winning the World Cup. They're not the favorite, but they're not doormats either.
I would think they'd be happy to get out of pool play probably in advance out of the first round.
It goes a little bigger than that.
Based on history, they should be happy to get out of pool play.
If the United States can go on a bit of a run, it would create a tremendous buzz. Yeah,
it would. And for the World Cup to really catch on here, USA needs to make some kind of run, I think. Because listen, I'm a soccer fan every 4 years, and when USA does better, then I'm more of a fan, obviously. So we'll see how that. And I think I'm not in a small minority here. I think it's a pretty big minority.
The only way soccer catches on in the United States, if you have leagues and the right players that create interest in the leagues and some standings and all, like they have the other sports.
Best player in the world plays in the league here, and it still doesn't catch on. Best player in the world is here.
Well, I'm going to tell you this about the World Cup. It's the greatest tournament in the world. I mean, pro sports have their tournament. The NBA championships are a tournament. Hockey, Stanley Cup playoffs are a tournament. Major League Baseball playoffs is a tournament. football culminates in the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl is the single greatest sporting event that you can have, but the World Cup tournament dwarfs, the NFL playoffs or any other sport.
Well, they had the security officials I saw interviewed on the news the other night. We're talking about from a security standpoint, it's like providing security for 60 Super Bowls over a month's time. So it's a big challenge from that standpoint. So anyway, we hope the USA has a run. I kind of agree with Danny. If they get out of pool play and win a game after that, that'd be pretty good. So anyway,
imagine they lose to Paraguay today.
I'm still not. Yeah, that'd be bad. I'm still not letting my granddaughter kick a ball. When she kicks a ball, I pick it up and tell her to throw it. Don't kick it. So we're not having any kicking of balls. NHL playoffs. Carolina takes a 3-2 lead last night with a 4-2 win. Chechnikov, I believe is how you say his name, 2 goals last night. Interestingly enough, Brendamore, the coach for Carolina, kept Bussy in the rotation. He said that he sat Anderson the other night just to rest him. You rest a guy in game 4 of the playoffs. That's kind of weird after Bussy had replaced him in game 3. But he leaves Bussy out there and he plays really well with 23 saves. I'm guessing they won't make another change in goal, Carolina. And Vegas goes home needing to win to stay alive. Sunday night?
Yeah, how do you justify certain moves? You're going to say one guy's better. Just let the team know up front, I'm playing whoever has the hot hand. Did you hear what John Tortorella said after the game? Always defiant. This is funny in a way. I guess he wants to send a message to his team, kind of similar to what Jordan said when the Bulls were going to Phoenix for game 6 and possibly game 7. If they were to lose game 6, they were up 3-2 against the Suns in the finals. I'm only bringing one suit. I mean, but then again, come to think of it, Keith, one suit should be able to last for the duration of a few days. I mean, how often are you going to wear a darn suit? But whatever. John Tortorella is leaving his clothes in Carolina. Now, the Las Vegas is going back home for game 6, to play Carolina in Las Vegas.
Right.
But Tortorella's team is down 3-2. He's leaving his clothes in Carolina because why have him? Because that's his way of saying we're going to be back after game 7. Can you imagine the Golden Knights lose game 6 and they're eliminated? What becomes of Tortorella's clothes in Carolina? Does he just trash them? And how much clothes did he bring? You mean the room is being held to him and not being used?
Maybe. I'm sure he can afford it. That's classic.
He get an Airbnb or what? Like for a week or whatever, during a stay? Classic
John Tortorella, though. I love that. So you got so this weekend we have 2 potential closeout games. One playing at home, trying to stay alive in Vegas, and one going on the road, trying to wrap it up in the Knicks. Saturday and Sunday nights.
I have a problem, Keith. Maybe you could help me with it. Sonia booked me to do her show on Wednesday night, June 17th. My problem is on the 17th, that would be game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals. And that would be during the heart of the game. I'm going to be doing her show.
Well,
is there any way I can get out of it, Keith? You want to fill in for me for that show or what?
No, I can't on Wednesdays. I
want to watch the game. It's game 7. I've become a fan for game 7.
You just watch along with her. She's a Carolina fan. You'll be all right.
Yeah, I got to speak to her on that. Yeah, I mean,
maybe she wants to postpone it or do it early.
Cancel her show if there's a game 7. There's a game 7 going on. Come on, especially she's a Carolina fan. You're right.
100% she should.
I'll let her know. Let's see how game 6 goes.
You had a couple. Did you have any? What else did you have? You had something from left field. You said. Did you forget what it was now that we didn't talk about before?
I think the Henry Ruggs thing that kind of bothered me. And do I have some compassion for Henry Ruggs? It doesn't mean he's a bad person. Sometimes someone does something completely irresponsible, completely dumb. It does. That's at game 6 first. But it bothers me. I don't want to hear that Henry Ruggs could be used as an example, as a role model, and all that. It's listen. I once went to see this borderline NBA player. He'd speak to kids at schools, okay? And I was at this school, and I heard him speak to the kids about the way he threw away his NBA career. He did this, he did that, everything wrong. And a lot of times you hear that, and it's like a therapy session for the person. It's is it more about helping the kids? A therapy session. I think they want to hear someone who succeeded and met their dream. They worked hard towards it, what they had to do to get to their dream. I think that has more value as opposed to throwing away their dream, like someone on drugs, the way they threw their career away by being on drugs. I'd rather hear about someone who resisted the temptation of drugs and made their career a success. That's just me. Maybe I'm wrong in that outlook, but that's just the way I feel.
I think there's value in both messages, but I don't disagree that we should hear more of that, right? Instead of just the negative side, because and not everybody goes down that path. Some people stay the path, the straight and narrow. So anyway,
you want to get with that? You always ask me anything with boxing.
Anything with
Saturday,
boxing. Yes.
Saturday night, tomorrow night. Jesse Bam Bam Rodriguez, one of the best pound-for-pound fighters in boxing, is fighting. But I'm going to tell you, going opposite the Nick game, the timing in the World Cup starting.
Nobody's watching.
So much sports, things kind of slip under the radar. You know who was at the game? You're looking at all these celebrities going to the games. Like you see Aaron Judge there. That's cool. Aaron Judge is a megastar in New York as far as I'm concerned. He handles himself like the consummate gentleman always, Aaron Judge. You get the feeling a great guy. And then you see Jackson Dart marching in like he's a celebrity. Keith, maybe I'm missing something here. I'm not even certain if I'm a Giants fan, he's my quarterback of the future. Jackson Dart has proven virtually nothing so far, but he has potential. I'm willing to give him a full shot to be my quarterback of the future. He has proven nothing to this point.
But he's a name, and he should be. I'm glad he puts his face there and roots for the Knicks. I got a bigger problem with somebody like Taylor Swift, who was with Travis Kelce rooting against the Knicks when they played the Cavs. Remember them sitting courtside in Cleveland, rooting for the Cavs, and she's sitting in Celebrity Row with a Knicks T-shirt on.
No, wait. Wait. When she was with Travis, she was just sitting with him. She wasn't rooting for the Cavs.
Are you sure?
She was sitting with him. Look, she didn't have on Nicky out of respect to him, but she could have still been wanting
I'm not so sure
to win. But at that moment, and Travis being a minority owner, I mean, she should. You know who I liked? His brother, not Jason Kelce's wife. Jason Kelce's wife, before the Eagles played the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, even though Travis is her brother-in-law, she says, I'm rooting for the Eagles. She's always been an Eagles fan. I'm rooting for the Eagles.
I'm just saying. I see Ben Stiller and Jerry Seinfeld and these guys every Knick game. I don't ever see Taylor Swift at a Knick game. Maybe I'm missing it, but I don't think she's
good for ratings. The NBA wanted her there. The other girls with her, that's, I'm sure, part of her entourage. So Taylor said, look, they have to come to the game, so they were allowed in.
Now, we weren't on the same page a lot the first half of the show, Danny, but do go back and watch it, please. And a couple of programming notes. There'll be no debate show tomorrow. There'll be a replay of a previous debate show. And we will, I know it was announced differently, we will have I don't even know what we call the Sunday morning roundtable show, the McGrath Podcast Network. But at 8 a.m., we will have a live show with Jack and James and myself.
Well, that's if James makes it on time, if he doesn't sleep late. I mean, if James comes on late and apologizes. I don't want to hear you say, that's okay, brother.
I don't know how we get into these conversations.
I love James. James makes good points. James is a smart guy, logical, level-headed.
He is very good. Respect
to James.
Yes, for sure. And we'll see. I'll see you on Sunday morning with the Sunday Stream of Consciousness as well. Guys, have a great weekend. Let's go Knicks tomorrow night. Even Jack's on board. I might have to burn that email if they don't win, Jack. But
I said beforehand the Knicks in 6, but I'm going to be honest. The game 4, the way it was going, man, when they fell behind, I was thinking, I should have stuck with the Spurs. You know, that entered my mind.
Need a better start tomorrow night.
Not over yet. 3-1, it is not over yet, Knicks fans. It is not over yet. Spurs are capable of coming back, even though I don't think they will.
Let's wrap it up in game 5 and not worry about it. See you later, guys. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye. Oh,